Hey, shalom, 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 lakam, which is peace unto you all. Hayawam tawab la atam, za'akyakam yawam man rachagadal Charlotte, which is good day. This is your brother Yawam from the GMS camp in Charlotte. Nacham atam kaya, hamalakwat hashamayim kwara, repent ye for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Call layim la la abnawa Yahweh bahasham, Yahweh shah bahasham, racha hakodash wa mashana la zakwayin nawa, wa malakam shaw, rachagadal, which is all praises to our Father Yahweh, which means he exists. Bahasham, in the name Yahweh Shai delivers in double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. All right, so today's lesson is titled Achat Yawam Ba'ait, which is one day at a time. And essentially what sparked the thought of this lesson was a brother had did a video titled Each Day is a Day Closer to the Kingdom. You see, so I'm gonna start it off with this right here. This is Dahoyim Psalms chapter 118 and verse 24. It says, "This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it." So essentially, we've been given another day in this truth. You see, so if we have another day in this truth, we essentially have another day to work on ourselves. All right. And it was a saying one time I was doing some training, and I was talking to Jake. Pretty much, it was martial arts training. So pretty much, Jake's like, yeah. I'm like, how you keep yourself so disciplined, for the specific art. And Jake's like, yeah, just one thing at a time, brick by brick, pretty much doing one thing at a time, one day at a time, so I just wanted to go into that. I'm gonna get this. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 14. We'll get verse 33. And it says, "For the Most High is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints." All right, so the Lord is the author of peace. He's not the author of confusion. You see, and ultimately, how we can make the best of our day is ultimately by growing. Because the scriptures say this right here. I'm gonna get this. This is Mashal, Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 18. And it says, "But the path of the just is as the shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day." All right, I'm gonna get this in the NLT, and it says, "The way of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, which shines ever brighter until the full light of day." So as we near closer to Jacob's trouble, the elect is growing, because the Lord is putting a spirit on his elect, to endure, while these people, they don't have any hope, they don't have a vision, so they gonna perish, you see. But if you have a vision, if you have a plan, if you have a goal to shoot forward to, then ultimately, that's essentially how one's going to endure until the end, which the elect is going to endure to the end, and in doing so, the elect is going to keep growing. All right, so I'm gonna get a couple precepts going into that, or some more precepts going into that. This is Salah. This is I'm gonna get this real fast. This is the word racha, and it says the responsibility, which that's the Hebrew letters ra and cha. It says the responsibilities of the nomad outside of the tent include feeding, watering, and caring for the livestock. It says livestock are healthier and more productive when on a routine. Therefore, the man follows a routine or a prescribed path each day when caring for his livestock. It says the pictograph ra is a picture of the head of man Ra'ash. The Cha is a picture of a wall that separates the inside from the outside. Combine these mean man outside. More specifically, it will go into head of man and boundaries. So the head of man has boundaries for us, because essentially, going back to this right here, it says livestock are healthier and more productive when on a routine, because if you are in a certain specific routine, you can see the results and you can see those goals, those different goals that you're hitting, and how we can see that a good meter of that, that can help is like keeping a planner and then also journaling, because those things help reach, spiritual goals, you see, and also, goals and goals like personal goals, which will coincide with the truth, So nevertheless, I'm gonna get this. Google, does journaling help with planning? It says goal setting. Writing down goals can help you clarify what you want to achieve, make them more specific, and track your progress. Which that can be done with the planner and then also, with the journal. So it says you can use your journal to prioritize tasks and manage your time, because ultimately, going into, I remember the elder in Mississippi, Zahab, pretty much, Elder Zahab, he pretty much went into how, in the ancient kingdoms, they would plan, they would have like secretaries and stuff like that, so if we're doing this for, to better ourselves for the Lord, how much more us, so we should pretty much make the best of our time and manage our time, so it says, you can use your journal to prioritize tasks and manage your time. For example, you can use a bullet journal to record deadlines and key tasks for the week, which we can use whatever method, ultimately works for us, so each brother, it could be different, how it goes into right here. This is Sirach, chapter 37, and verse 27, and it says, my son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. For all things are not profitable for all men, neither hath every soul pleasure in everything. So, essentially, we can use whatever method, works for us, So, me personally, I just do like the bullet planning, and that essentially helps me, So, bros essentially could find what works for them. But it says journaling. Journaling really helps with self-reflection. It says you can use your journal to reflect on your day, including what you've been working on, what you're grateful for, happy moments. You can also write about how you're feeling and how certain events are affecting your day-to-day life. And it says maintaining a bird's eye view, not being biased, So it says you can use your journal to write down everything that comes to mind, including your wants and desires and what you define as successes. This can help you maintain a sense of your life path and inspire you to set goals. So we got to maintain a bird's eye view and be honest with ourselves. Let me get this real fast. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 13. We'll get verse 5. So it says, examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith, prove your own selves. And when you go into that word prove, all right, ultimately it goes back to what we just got in Sirach, prove. It says to examine. It says whether a thing is genuine or not. It says recognize as genuine after examination, to approve, deem worthy, you see. So examination, so you see what works for you. If it doesn't work, all right, then you put it to the side, and you find what works for you, Verse 5, it says, again, it says examine yourselves, so we're maintaining that bird's eye view, which journaling can help with that, ultimately reflecting and seeing what we need to work on. Because the scriptures say that essentially the elect is going to put on as the elect, or the scriptures say to put on as the elect, and to ensure that we do that. First and foremost, pray to the Lord, and essentially pray that, the Lord blesses the plans, Verse 5 again, it says, examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith, prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Yahweh HaMashiach is in you, except ye be reprobates. All right. So essentially by, having the journal, and planning, and praying to the Lord that those things essentially help us, those things can help us, if it be the Lord's will. All right. But continuing on, let's get this. Because again, the title of the lesson is Achat Yawam Ba'ait, which is one day at a time. We can't be concerned with what's gonna, be tomorrow or days ahead. This is Matati Matthew chapter 6, and we'll get verse 33. And it says, but seek ye first the kingdom of the Most High and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. You see, so what's going to make the elect righteous in these days is going to be belief on Yahweh HaMashiach, and essentially that belief is going to cause forth for those works, you see, and in order to have, those good works, again, we would have to believe in those works. It would be good for us to, manage our time, in the correct fashion, to make the most of the time that the Lord has given us. All right. And it says, but seek ye first the kingdom of the Most High, and seeking the kingdom first, through the vision, ultimately, and having the vision, we have to seek the kingdom of the Lord first, or seek the kingdom of the Most High first, and that's essentially prioritizing the Lord, so setting up our schedules and journaling to where we're prioritizing what's going to make us better for the Lord, for when he returns, and it says, and his righteousness and all these things shall be added unto you. Verse 34, take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So we can't be pressed about the future. We have to worry about what we're doing today, and align ourselves with the Lord's will today. NLT, Matthew 6 and 34, NLT, it says, so don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. Salat. All right, so going back, I'm going to read this again. Matthew 6 and 34 says, therefore take no thought for tomorrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Which the thought kind of slipped my mind, but right here, because pretty much by we have each day we have to ensure that we're essentially doing things to please the Lord. All right, this is Ephesians chapter 5, and we'll get verse 15, and it says, see then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. We got to do things that's going to please the Lord. Verse 16, redeeming the time because the days are evil. You see, we got to make the most of our time. Right here, NLT, make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. You see, so we got to make the most of the time that the Lord has allotted us. So and by doing that, pretty much going into time management, put the Lord first, prioritize the Lord. Then we can take care of the stuff that we have after that. So continuing on. I'm going to go to verse 17. It says, wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. All right, and it's the Lord's will to destroy America, Babylon the Great. It's the Lord's will for the elect to continue to grow. We just got that in Proverbs 4 and 18. All right. So essentially by aligning, the elect is going to align with what the scriptures say the elect is going to do. So scriptures say also to put on as the elect, So when we look at, because this is a spiritual battle, So how are, if you look at like a fight, like a boxing fight, MMA fight, usually if you win by unanimous decision, all right, how is that done? Brick by brick, labana by labana, which is which labana by labana is brick by brick, and is all right, one thing at a time, which in Hebrew it will be achad dabar ba'aith, one thing at a time, so say, 12 rounds of boxing. All right. If they got a saying, a good jab will essentially, I can't remember from quoting it right, but I believe it's a good jab will take you around the world, some of that effect, but pretty much if you got a good jab, you've been jabbing this dude, all night, all day, that's going to rack up them points. So brick by brick, doing it the correct way, managing the time, doing it the correct way each time, one thing at a time, or one day at a time. Ultimately, in the end, that would be a unanimous decision, just doing, because they got a saying, which is win the day, which, is essentially how you win the day. All right. You got various different means of how you win the day, but traditionally you would want to win it by doing one thing at a time, being focused, and managing your time the correct way, because the scriptures say that the elect is going to pretty much, roughly paraphrasing, going to escape, by the skin of their teeth, roughly paraphrasing, the scriptures also say that again, the elect's going to put on as the elect, they're going to prioritize the Lord, so in prioritizing the Lord, we gotta manage our time, we gotta plan, and we also gotta self-reflect. These things are all entailed and putting on as the elect. So another thing, get this real fast. This is Thahoyim Psalms, chapter 119, in verse 9, and it says, Bayath, it says, wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word. You see, so we've been calling this truth, you know, to finish the task. And part of that task is putting off that old man. You see, so how we do this, we establish those habits. You see, because you can't just drop a habit. You got to replace it with the new one. You see, so by replacing those habits, all right, essentially a young man would cleanse his way, would cleanse those old habits, all right, by taking heed thereto according to thy word, which represents Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. All right, because when I go into this word for way, it says arach, and it says way, path, way of living. All right, those are your habits, I'm gonna get this as well. This is Luke chapter 14. We'll get verse 28. And it says, for which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it. All right, I'm gonna read this in the NLT and get in the commentary. It says, but don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin constructing of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? All right. Going to the NLT. I mean, not NLT, the commentary. All right. And it says, sit down first, B, and consider whether he is able, Salah. I'll read from here. It says, Yahweh Shah perhaps alluded to the idea that the work of his kingdom was like building and battle. Each of these are usually more costly than one thinks before beginning. So it says, each of these are usually more costly than one thinks before beginning. You see, so ultimately, A says, sit down first and count the cost. You see, so that's a moment of planning. You have to plan. You would have to ultimately sit and consider, okay, how am I going to do this? All right, what about this? You would have to plan, and ultimately going back, to reiterate, you would have to pray and ask the Lord to bless that plan, So I'm gonna get this as well. This is Mashal, Proverbs chapter 24. We get verse 27, and it says, prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house. NLT, it says, do your planning and prepare your fields before building your house. Which the scriptures say, I'm gonna get this real fast. I believe it's 2nd Esdras, or it might be Sirach. 2nd Esdras chapter 14, I believe. 14 and 14 and Sirach. Give me a second. Verse 13, 2nd Esdras 14 and 13, it says, now therefore set thine house in order and reprove thy people. Comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption. All right, it says, let go from the mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off now the weak nature, and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee to flee from these times. All right, and essentially, how does one do that? Psalms 119 and 9, by taking heed thereto according to thy word. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word. Putting off those old habits and replacing them with new habits. All right, and by when you have a planner, ultimately you can mark that, having a bullet planner. All right, I need to do this, do this, do this, do this, and have your mind focus on that specific. Our minds focus on that specific task, and by that, essentially, we're training our minds to win the day, and to win those specific tasks in those different moments. And say, we happen to fall short, by writing it in the journal. Hey, tomorrow, or I need to tighten up on this. All right, well, essentially, that's the moment of self-examination, whether we be in the faith, roughly paraphrasing, So, because we going back to verse 13, it says, set thine house in order, having a certain order, a certain way that we do things, going back to that way of living. All right, having our conversation, essentially having our conversation in the correct fashion. All right, having them good habits. All right, that's how we set our house in order. All right, and that's pretty much the point that I want to get out of those verses. All right, I'm gonna go to Sirach, chapter 33, and we'll get verse 4, and it says, prepare what to say, and so thou shalt be heard, and bind up instruction, and then make answer. You see, so ultimately, that also goes into that self-reflection process as well, self-examination, by preparing or journaling down, okay, I could have said this way. I'm gonna say this way next time, Lord's will, and then pray that, the Lord essentially allows us to say things in the correct manner, you see, because the scriptures go into, our speech as well. All right, this is Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 1. It says, the preparations of the heart and man, and the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. All right, so essentially we have to pray that, our plans are being carried out in the Lord's will, and then also the answer of the tongue, that it pleases the Lord, because the scriptures say that a man is going to be justified or condemned in how he speaks, roughly paraphrasing. It's a lot. I don't want to misquote. This is Matthew chapter 5 and verse 37, and it says, but let Salah. I'm gonna search it up. This is Matthew chapter 12 and verse 37 says, for by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. You see, so we got to pray ultimately that the Lord blesses our plans, and then ultimately the answers, that we're pushing forth, that we're speaking out of our mouth, So I'm going to get this. This is Luke chapter 12 and verse 43. And it says, blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh. This is Luke chapter 12 and verse 39. Luke chapter 12. It's a lot. Luke chapter 12 and verse 35. And it says, be in readiness. How do you be ready? You prepare. It's a saying in the world, poor planning produces something like that. Poor planning produces piss poor performance, something like that. The 5 P's, I believe. And it says, be in readiness, be prepared. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, as bro said. And it says, let your loins be girded about, and your lights burning, and yea, yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord. So I'm gonna get this in the NLT. And it says, be dressed for service and keep your lamps burning. Pretty much being dressed for service. The scriptures say that the Lord, when he come back, he gonna punish the king. Salah. We're gonna come back to this, but this is strange apparel. This is Zephaniah chapter 1 and verse 8. It says, and it shall come to pass in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that I will punish the princes and the king's children and all such as are clothed with strange apparel. So we don't want to be found in the strange apparel when the Lord. We don't want to be found in strange apparel when the Lord comes back. We want to be prepared. Going back to it says, be dressed for service, NLT, and keep your lamps burning. NKJV, let your waist be girded and your lamps burning. So pretty much going into how we should be prepared. We want to be found with the wedding garment. All right, and it says, because remember, going back to, it was a man, going back to another parable in the scriptures, but pretty much the Lord said, friend, how did you come in here without the wedding garment? Or how did you come in here, pretty much without the proper clothing on, roughly paraphrasing, and essentially it went into how, he was cast into utter darkness, roughly paraphrasing. All right. Luke 12:35, and the latter says, "And your light's burning." And what's heavy about this is that in order to like when you have an actual candle, you got to keep trimming off you got to trim off the part that's burnt. You can't going back to a little leaven if the whole lump. So you can't have that burnt part up there, or it's not going to be able to keep burning. So what that represents is us continually working on ourselves, which journaling essentially helps us to self-examine. All right, and if we have different goals and stuff, we can write those inside the planner, and the planner ultimately is going to act as a goal setter and like a confidence booster as well, because you can see the growth in the spirit. All right, verse 36, and ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he come, shall find watching, doing their job, their due diligence, because in watching, essentially watching for the prophecies and preparing themselves. And it says, verily I say unto you that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. And if he shall come in the second watch, or in the third watch, or come in the third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants. And this know that if the good man of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not suffer his house to be broken through, which the Lord is coming as a thief in the night. Verse 40, be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when ye think not. Then Peter said unto him, Lord, speakest thou this parable unto us, or even to all? It says, and the Lord said, which it will behoove us in verse 40, it will behoove us to just be prepared, like the title said before we got into this. All right, verse 42, it says, and the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. You see, so those that are prepared, those essentially are finishing the task, being punctual, being pretty much about the Father's business. All right, and essentially when you go into a business, they have a manual. We got the manual, the scriptures. They also have an itinerary or some type of schedule, so we can use the planner as the scheduler, so to speak, and then also like the journal. That's the self-reflection. You see, so again, the title of the lesson was Achad Yawam Ba'aith, one day at a time. Achad is one, Yawam is day, Ba is at, Aith would be a time, or just time. Achad Yawam Ba'aith, one day at a time. We win the day, all right, taking it one day at a time in the spirit, by Achad Dabar Ba'aith, which is one thing at a time, pretty much being focused and giving our all 100% for each different thing we have to do in the spirit for the Lord, prepping ourselves for the marriage, from when the Lord returns. All right. Which, going back to, what pretty much sparked the lesson was the brother's title on his video. Each day is a day closer to the kingdom. And, each day is a day closer to the kingdom. Each day we got another opportunity, to, get better for the Lord, you see. So, Adawan Ratazaza Banayapa, Lord's will does a beautiful edification through the spirit. Wadawan Rataza Atam Yash Yawam Tawab, Lord's will, you all have a good day. Wa Shalom Lakam, which is peace unto you all. Win the day and be great. Shalom.